All right. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. I'm your host, Jonathan Chatham, and welcome to the Dance Studio Network podcast. Joining me today, a wonderful, talented, amazing person whom I've known for 10 years.
Thank you.
This is Miss Nikki Fife, our director of so much.
Yeah.
So much.
A lot of things.
There's a lot of things. We're gonna jump into it today. But today we kind of want to talk about, the competitive experience of dance. You work with a lot of those types of dancers. You have a really long love for tap.
I do.
So let's dive into that portion first.
Okay.
And talk about where that tap passion stemmed from. Where did you start?
So I grew up in San Diego, Southern California,
Oh.
where you did too. So
San Diego.
And my great aunt, she actually owns the longest running dance studio in San Diego. It's been open since 1962. So this year she's going on her, 60th year?
60 years.
year, yeah.
I think she made it. I think she made it.
Yeah. So shout out to Miss Fernetta.
Yeah. Congratulations.
She taught me all the things. I started for a dancer. I started really late, actually. I was like 9-10 years old, which when you think of a professional dancer, they all say, oh, they started when they were 2 or 3. Yeah. So I tried all the other things before. I tried horseback riding and softball and soccer and baseball and whatever else you could try. And I just turned on the TV one day and saw a couple guys tap dancing on TV. And I was like, that looks really cool. So my mom was like, well, your Aunt Vernetta, like she owns that studio.
Time to go take
class.
Oh, I love it.
And that was kind of it. So I went in and I was like, teach me all these things. I want to look cool like that.
Yeah.
And then I just fell in love with it. We have a lot of musicians in our family. So I think just that natural love of music and percussion and all that kind of stuff, which is so fun.
Oh, it's awesome. I think that's kind of the process. We want people to jump in and discover.
Yeah.
And you get that kind of misnomer of like, oh, I feel like I'm starting late.
Yeah.
And, there's so many professionals that started not even till they're late teenagers that are now amazing leaders in this industry. So if you can just kind of throw that one out and then come back to that focus, and it really, what I love you said is you fell in love with dance. And that's what it's about. This journey of falling in love with dance and the style that stood out to you was tap.
I loved it because, of course in dance, everyone has body image issues a little bit. And I think when I saw that, I was like, oh, anyone can do that. And at the time, of course, that was, 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And it's so different now.
Absolutely.
But even back then, I was like, oh, okay, well, this is something I can do. And then once I learned, like, oh, you can look however you want to look or however you do look and still be successful as a jazz dancer or a ballet dancer or contemporary dancer, whatever type of dancer. So I think that she really encouraged,
really fostered that.
Really encouraged me to try other styles.
That's awesome.
And she, trained me in a little in all the jazz and all the ballet also, but tap was just kind of where my heart was. But then I found, Broadway. There was a lot of tap in Broadway, and with the Broadway came the jazz and the Fosse style, and I love that. I'm a very old soul, so I love that.
Oh yeah,
that old
I remember
old Hollywood type stuff is so fun to me.
Well, in that first time I watched you tap,
yeah,
I remember we were doing the audition, and I was like, oh my gosh, that is so crisp, and clear, and I got to know more about the story because there's something here.
Yeah.
And I think that's the beautiful part. We are really pushing this industry forward and saying you need to break free from whatever past, experiences have been or what people told you couldn't do.
Yeah.
Forget all that. You got to believe in yourself. And, when you believe in yourself most, it's when you find something you love the most.
Yeah.
So whether it's tap or ballet or jazz or lyrical contemporary hip hop, whatever it's going to be, like you just got to like dive into it.
Well, and if you love it, you won't listen to what's around you and who's telling you that you can't.
Exactly.
Because you just love it so much. So that should be enough to like just push you forward through it.
I love it. Well, and I think the challenge for nowadays dancers is they look on Instagram and they see everything that they potentially could be, but it's like a highlight reel of only the best.
Yeah.
And maybe they did a technique or a move, but only landed it once, and that's all you saw.
Yeah.
And so it really creates kind of a misconstrued idea of where you should be as a kid. And I think that's why it's so important. We get on here and we talk to people like, look, at 8, you shouldn't be feeling that pressure that you're behind. You're 8 years old. Come on.
It's such a false sense of reality. It's not real. I mean, it is real. Obviously they're doing it, but like you said, they caught the one video out of probably 10,000 tries. Exactly. You know, and they don't show all the 900 or 9,999 other videos where they didn't do it correctly, and the years that it took to do that. And I think that's the other thing is it takes years for things to blossom and happen the right way. And I think that's the other thing with Instagram and social media is you see these dancers doing these crazy tricks and they're just like, oh, I should be able to do that tomorrow. And they can't because that's not realistic, even though on Instagram it looks realistic.
Exactly.
But it's just not.
Well, and it really creates like another, aspect you have to consider now. Mm-hmm. So like as a teacher, you're not just coaching students through technique, you're coaching them through the mindset of being patient to learn the technique when they're looking around and they're seeing it everywhere else. And that's great. You should be inspired, but not compare. Yeah. I always believed it was, the comparison is the killer of all joy. Yeah. As soon as you start comparing yourself to the person next to you, you've already lost.
Yeah, 100%.
Because every artist has a unique journey, a unique expression, and they have to find what that is. And if someone tells you what it is, it's not going to be the same as you discovering it, right?
Right. And I also tell my dancers too, a lot of the time, they'll be working on a skill for months at a time. And I'll tell them, oh, that was better. And they'll like shake their head in just disappointment because it wasn't perfect. And they'll look at me like, no, you're just telling me it was better.
you're just biased now.
And I'm like, no, but it was better. Is it perfect yet? Or is it as good as it can be? No, but it was better than the last time you did it. Yeah. And I think that everyone expects to go from not doing it to doing it very, very well in a short amount of time. And they don't understand like the process in between where it's a slow and a gradual process, and they have to get better. Yeah. And, we all have kids, and I've talked to them. I'm like, as soon as baby's born, like they don't just get up and start running. Like it takes them a year to first they squirm, then they roll, then they crawl, then they stand. And it's the same thing as that. It's the same process as, a baby learning to walk.
It seems to me like there's a natural progression, much like how we grow in the cycles of life, right? And so if we don't fight against it, but we fight for it in the right direction, now you're coming into agreement with kind of allowing your body to learn the muscle memory, the steps, learning the confidence, learning the technique, and then executing it with musicality and professionalism that now, whether you're doing a simple technique move or something very difficult, it looks like you've mastered it. And I think, there's that old saying of like, practice makes perfect. Yeah. And I've always heard that. And I was like, can we improve that? Like, how about like practice makes progress?
Yeah, I like that.
Practice makes progress. I think that's a golden nugget today. Ladies and gentlemen, practice makes progress.
Yes.
Get the perfectionism out of your mind, out of your body, and watch as you are progressing through your style of dance, no matter what age you are starting at or no matter what goal you're reaching for. Yeah. And, it's kind of like you ever reach a goal in life and you're like, oh, I'll be so happy once I can do that one said thing. Yeah. And you hit it and you're like,
okay, now what do I go for next?
What next?
Yeah.
So it's kind of like you're always reaching for something that may never be there, but if you establish it from within, now you're taking this to a new level. Yeah. And you're saying like, yes, I'm going to get that move and I'm sure so much more beyond it, but I'm going to enjoy the time it takes to learn it, to master this craft so that I can perfect it and, really show how capable I am as a dancer to present this. Yeah. And to that whole point, like if you're just looking for perfectionism straight out of the bone, that's hard.
And I like what you said about the practice makes progress because, we all have bad days. We all have days where we're like, oh, it's not a good turn day or it's not a good this day or not a good that day. Or you're just so hard on yourself on how you're dancing that day. And I always say, well, think about the first day you walked into the studio compared to now. And then they go, I was so bad. And then that makes them feel better because they've seen the progress
they've made,
on how big of a difference from like day one to day whatever they're on, and I think that's a good reminder for like every single dancer is if you're having a bad day, look back at a video from like a year ago or 2 years ago or 3 years ago or however long you have, because I think you'll look back and you'll go, oh my gosh, I'm so much better now. So that kind of just reassures you, that I've made progress. It might not be where I want to be yet, but then in another year I'll look back and be like, oh, look how much better I've got. Yeah. So I think it's all perspective, and that's the beauty of technology is you can look back.
Yeah,
and
nowadays,
look at it. Yeah, nowadays.
Especially.
So I think it's all perspective and just keeping, what's realistic.
Okay.
That needs to be, I think the biggest focus is just knowing like you're going to get out of it what you put into it.
Yeah.
If you're only dancing one day a week, taking one class, then you're obviously not going to progress as fast as the girl or boy or whoever is taking 6 classes a week, or 7 classes a week or whatever.
And there's nothing, again, like wrong with that.
Oh,
and
not
that's
at
where,
all.
again, removing that comparison.
Yeah.
And just kind of trusting your passion and love for dance and following your journey.
Yeah.
So I love that. I think you guys, you gotta hear these words of wisdom here coming from you. It's amazing. Now as a teacher, so you grew up through dance. I mean, so much we'll have to unpack in some other days. That's a whole nother
episode.
But from a teaching perspective, now for those that are competing or those that are kind of stepping into those new goals, what's some of the focus you would love them to kind of remember?
I think for dancers that are stepping into the competitive world, I think the very first thing is very much to not compare, even though that's what competition is.
Yeah.
And that's what's so hard about it. But I know that we've really tried to push, I tell all my competitive dancers, I don't care how you place, I care how you score. And if you danced better than the last competition, because, the competition world is, once again, outside influences, and there's so much, there's political stuff that goes behind it. There's bias. I mean, it's human nature.
Well, art is subjective.
It's so subjective.
Like if you walk up to a piece of art and I put 10 people in a room and 8 of them love it and 2 of them hate it, who's right? Who's wrong?
Yeah. And my former ballroom teachers, they say that's why dance will never be in the Olympics.
Yeah.
Because it's so subjective. They said no style of dance will ever be in the Olympics.
Yeah.
Because I know it's kind of maybe getting there, but it's so how do you judge it? How do you judge a beautiful prima ballerina next to these, top line ballroom dancers? They're both so good and such masters at their own art. You can't say, well, this one's better
than the other
because it's 2 totally different things. And I think that's what's hard with competitive. That's so hard with competitive because it's literally all styles against each other. And
trying to compete to find,
and you have these judges, and that's the other thing is you have judges who may not know tap or may not know, whatever style, and they don't know how to judge it. So then they don't judge it well or score it well.
Or the inverse. Where it is their style and they judge it even harder.
Super hard. Yeah, exactly. So there's a lot of factors other than you did or you did not dance well.
Exactly.
So, and I think that's what I try and get all the competition dancers to understand is they could have danced so good. But the judge saw something, or they could have not liked their costume, and we've fought this before. Other studios will put high level dancers into lower level levels of competition, and that's just not how we operate.
Exactly,
it's a good life lesson because not everyone plays fair in life.
I mean, wait a minute, life's not fair. Hold on, rewind the tape here. No, it's good to
and it hurts and it stings and it's not fun for that moment, but then when you look back and you see the progress that you've made as a dancer and how you competed at your first competition versus your last competition, and how much more comfortable you get and how you finally find your groove and your flow and all this kind of stuff. And like I say, I tell them, I'm like, score your best. I don't care how you place, score your best. So if you're getting, within 10 points of a perfect score, and they score out of 300, they have 3 judges.
Okay.
Score out of 300. Usually each judge gets 100 points. So if you're getting between, 285, 290, 292, and 293, but then you don't place.
Yeah. So you're trying to...
You shouldn't be upset about that. You scored really well. And they break it down to tenths of a point. I mean, you can have...
It's really gotten up there.
It's really crazy how, finite it's gotten. And just like the Olympics and gymnastics, tenths of a point. It's the same. That's how they score dance competitions. Yeah. So I really try to emphasize, worry about your score.
Yeah.
Don't worry about how you place because that really...
And that's why we like to take them through several. You get kind of a benchmark.
Yeah.
You kind of know after a season, how did I really do?
Yeah.
And then the neat part is the judges do get to hear their critiques and feedbacks. So it gives you a chance to say, how could I learn to improve this better?
Yeah.
Versus maybe be stuck in one way of doing it just this same way. And what better life skill then learning to take critiques and take adjustments and flow with it instead of kind of flowing against it and resisting it. So I think for these students that are young, it's good to have context to understand, again, how your progress and how you're performing throughout the year. So,
and it's good for those parents to know too, because new parents will come in and they're like, I have no idea what's going on here. How do they, is that really good kid up against my kid? And I mean, there's age levels, there's skill levels. I mean, it's all, it's very complex for a new person that's never done it.
And to just kind of let the audience in on this. So each one of the studio owners and directors, we'll enter these students under a competition level, a group, and that's kind of on us.
Yeah.
So what we're really requiring and really expecting is other, studios to do the right and proper thing.
Yeah.
And that's a hard thing to expect, and it's darn near imperfect to be able to actually execute.
Yeah.
And that's where you have to have a little, understanding. Okay, there's a little salt in the mix. Like, okay, there's a little seasonality to this. And that's okay, because the point of competition is to do what? To grow and perform at your best, not someone else's through comparison, to see how you're growing as an artist. And these competitions are really incredible outlets to give students that outlet.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of weird. I don't really look at competition as competition. I just look at it as, can I be the most entertaining on stage? And it's a performance. It really is a performance that you're just getting feedback on. And if everyone can kind of like remove the whole, oh, it's a competition and I have to win. If you can kind of remove that mindset and put it more as, this is a performance and I'm just getting feedback.
Well, yeah. And then you have more fun. And then typically when you take that stress and that fear away, you typically perform better. And that goes across any sector.
Yeah, for sure.
If you're anxious and worried, you're going to be more apt to make a mistake. Yeah. So you might as well enjoy this. And I mean, my goodness, we're dancing here.
Yeah.
Like, this should be the most fun thing you're doing.
Yeah. Well, and I always tell them, I'm like, when you go audition for college or whatever you're going to audition for, in your adult life, are they going to ask you, how did you do at that competition in Fort Worth in 2022? Like, they don't, they want to know what your experience is and how much you've performed and, what you've been exposed to. So I think it's just it's a great experience.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that. Well, then kind of diving into maybe more the recreational side.
Okay.
So dancers that come maybe to your classes or things you've noticed over the years, like maybe what's something that kind of stands out in your mind that's kind of memorable, or just something that maybe the audience would just love to hear from your perspective, on as like a recreational dancer. I know I'm going to throw you a curveball.
That's a lot of
questions, right?
Classes to think about. I really love getting the students that are into something else, like a different sport, into different this, and they kind of already have like this like really cool natural like athletic ability, but they have nothing, they've never done any dance. And then all of a sudden, like in a very quick, like short amount of time, like their body just does something that's correct and they do a skill and they like the look on their face, like the shock of like, did I just do that right? And I'm like, you did. And they're so happy. And I think that we, back to what we were talking about earlier, like we talk about, progress and learning things and letting your body figure out these skills. Sometimes, and this will happen with everybody at one point, sometimes your body it'll click and you get a skill and it's great. And I think that moment of clarity of like, oh, if I can do that, I can do everything. And that's so true.
Well, and then, like when I watch like a new student who's, maybe like totally just feeling like I've never done like anything, brand like new, my coordination is not there. And you watch them discover that, like you said, that same type of like, I got it,
Yeah.
It's amazing to watch confidence come in.
Yeah.
The level of performance that comes out and the level of enjoyment that they're really feeling like within this whole experience. And that's hard to quantify, like you see a kid go into class and have a great time, but like you have to look at like, they were dancing in front of a mirror, in front of peers they never knew, in front of a teacher they just met.
Yeah.
Where else in life do you go to work and you have a mirror in front of you every day?
Oh gosh.
I'll wait. I'll wait. Right.
Oh man.
Anybody? Does anybody go to work and like imagine that self-reflection? So to me,
staring back at you. Yeah.
It is a lot to work through as a student, as anybody.
Yeah.
And, to build that sense of self-worth through a skill set. That's what I love to see how dance impacts whether you're competitive or recreational whether you feel really athletic and experienced or whether you feel like you got 2 left feet. Like there's just such an opportunity to be shaped through this process, through this thing we call dance.
Yeah.
So really exciting. Now kind of going off of that, you work with a lot of the tap as well.
Yes.
And I gotta say, when there's something about when tap dancers come out and they lay their board down, and it's kind of like, oh, it's going
You're like,
down.
oh, it's about to happen.
And man, I remember, we did it at the downtown, the Cotton Mill.
Yes.
And that place is like super like original, old, and
it's
like the wood
plus years old.
Yeah,
and
like the wood is the original.
Yeah.
And the rhythm of the tap reverberated through the wood.
Yeah.
And it created this like echoing, and it was like I could feel it almost in my chest.
Yeah.
And it was like, it was like a thunderous excitement.
It was,
and it was
so fun.
So fun.
Yeah.
So, from tap dancers that maybe, have never really considered it because, everybody loves jazz and this hip hop, everything sees what's coming on contemporary, but like tap has a really special place.
It does. And I think that's what drew me to it originally was, I was very tomboyish as a young kid, and I was like, I don't want to stretch, and I don't want to wear a tutu, and I don't want to do any of that like girl, quote unquote girly stuff at the time. And I think obviously later on I fell in love with all that, but I think that's what drew me to tap is, it's really just about like really feeling it, and like it's very athletic. It's the hardest cardio you'll ever do probably, but I think that's what brings a lot of people to it is they might not be into the stretching and that style of dancing, so I think it's very inclusive. It's very anybody can do it. My great aunt, she just turned 82, I think. She's 82 and she still teaches 15 tap classes a week.
My God.
Her studio's still running. So it's like, it's also one of those things where your body's never going to give up on that. Like if you can walk, you can tap,
Yeah.
So as long as you can keep walking in your 90s or 100s or whatever, like you can be a tap dancer.
Well, and that's what's incredible is like this carries with you for life. And what a unique opportunity. Yeah. Not too many things you get to do as a kid, as into an adult and as into an older adult.
Yeah.
But you can remain young at heart and, let your feet do the talking, as they'd say. But I love this. This is great. For everybody who's out there, if you see Nikki, she is heavily involved in all 3 of our locations, leads over at our Allen Dance Studio. Mm-hmm. But any departing words you might want to offer, this is your chance.
Oh man,
I know.
I think everyone can dance. It might not be for everyone in like the long term, and it might not be like everyone's passion. But I think, how hard is it for any human being to not like tap your foot or like, nod your head a little bit when some music comes on. It's part of your human nature to like.
That's me in the car. I'm just like that crazy person who's like bobbing the head and like, don't mind me. I'm just living my own life over here.
I think it can be for everyone.
Yeah. Even
if you do just like it once a week, or you want to do it all day, every day. I mean, there's so many options and opportunities, and there's we have so many teams for everybody. I mean, we have teams for people that only want to do a couple hours a week, but then we have teams for people that
want to do so many. Yeah,
want to do so many. So I think that if you're intimidated by trying, don't be, because everyone has had a day one.
Yes.
Everyone has had a day one, and the teachers have all had a day one. We've all had a day one, and I think that day one is the best because that's the day that you find out what you want to do and how much you love it.
I like that. Ooh, that's a good cliffhanger. Well, awesome. Well, we'll pause there for the moment.
Okay.
Thank you for that, Miss Nikki. I love it. So to all of you out there looking for your future day ones, whether it's dance, whether it's gym, cheer, whatever it is, like go find your day one. Get out there and be bold. Be willing to try that something new. And when you get connected with people who love and pour their heart into you, man, there is what better level of support could you ask for?
Yeah.
So awesome. Well, I love it. Well, today's been fun. I'm enjoying this. We've got so much more to take you in, but we hope you enjoyed our second episode here at the Dance Studio Network. Again, I'm your host, Jonathan Chatham, and until next time, keep on dancing. Awesome.
Yes.